Hi, I'm Grrl Alex and I'm going to read a bit from my book, Grrl Alex, A Personal Journey to a Transgender Identity. I drove to Bristol with the accumulated items arranged on the back seat of the car and the makeup in my bag. I was in stealth mode to get out of Wales first. I arrived in the car park in Bristol, my heart pounding. I wrestled with my conscience. Did I really want to put myself through this? I waded up for what seemed like ages. A part of me wanted to knock the whole thing on the head, chicken out, and just go up to the library in my jeans and shoes. But here was my chance. No one would know me here. I could change and just go for it. I waded up further. The car park was quiet, so I had a go at doing the makeup. Bit of eyeliner, bit of shadow, bit of mascara. Not quite the smoky eye effect I'd been hoping for, but I was new to the whole makeup thing, and the overall effect was credible enough. Task 1 completed. Now, do I get changed? The question coursed through my mind. I could just do the jeans, the coat, the hat, the makeup, be out as sort of goth or emo. It crossed my mind to quit at this stage. It would have been easier. A part of me battled this thought. This was a chance. Take a risk, give it a try, gather the data, see it like an experiment. My head buzzing, my heart pounding, my stomach churning. I pushed myself and I went for it. Stood behind the rear door of the car, took my jeans off, slipped on my skirt over the black tights I had underneath. Task 2 completed. Okay, it's a go. I pulled on the boots, put on the coat and the hat, and I was ready to roll. I locked the car and headed for the stairs leading out of the car park. Walking across the concrete of the car park felt strange, but okay, as I headed past the rows of parked cars towards the door that led to the stairs. I was now several yards away from the safety of my own car and outside my comfort zone in both a physical and psychological sense. I was starting to question the whole wisdom of this. I forced myself to push on, concentrating on how I was walking, remembering to keep my back straight, remembering to place one foot in a line in front of the other, heel in front of toe. I'd looked this up on YouTube, how to walk in heels, and it was working. I was starting to get a rhythm going, walking from the hips in a motion that is essential to the wearing of high heels. And these were high, full-on 4-inch stiletto heels, and although I'd sort of practiced wearing the boots at home, being out on concrete was a whole new phenomenon, but it was okay, it was hanging together. The new sensation of feeling the cool draft of a winter's morning on my legs started to feel good as it gave me the full wearing a skirt experience, something I'd been curious about over decades. Now suddenly I was doing it, out there in girl mode, doing the whole skirt and boots thing. At the door to the stairwell I paused for one final moment before reassuring myself that this would be all fine. At the door to the stairwell I paused for one final moment before reassuring myself that this would all be fine. Holding the handrail firmly and facing slightly sideways, I began the descent. Doing stairs in heels is not for the faint-hearted, but I'd done my research and perfected the ascent and descent of stairs in heels by practicing them at home. These posed no problem, and moments later I was at the exit door of the car park and out onto the street, leading up to the city centre and the university campus. A few people milled about, but none posed a problem. I turned left out of the building and headed up the hill towards the shops. A large construction site sat alongside the car park, surrounded by tall plywood hoardings. I walked around the hoardings using the makeshift footpath that ran alongside, marked out with road cones. Reaching the top of the site as I ascended the hill, I found the main gates open and a young labourer stood by the large wooden doors, presumably waiting for the next concrete delivery. He caught sight of me, and as I walked past in determined strides, I heard him call to a colleague. An exchange took place between them. I thought I heard them snigger. I kept walking, confidently, but with a sideways glance in the shop windows to make sure they'd not left the site to pursue me. They didn't, and although I'd felt uncomfortable, slightly threatened, it had not been a problem. Making it up to the traffic lights at the top of the hill, I stood for a moment to wait for the signal to change. A woman stood alongside me, also waiting to cross. We smiled briefly at each other, and seconds later the traffic stopped and I was crossing the road in front of a slightly bemused van driver. The winter sun gave a clear light and a soft glow of gentle warmth to an otherwise cool November morning as I walked along the row of shops towards the museum and headed for the route up towards the library. A street seller asked if I wanted to buy a big issue, and I continued walking on. But a few paces later a pang of remorseful guilt had me turning on my 4-inch heels and going back to buy a copy. Now note this was not an entirely altruistic act, I might say, as this also gave me the chance to check out his reaction to gather more data. And yet the transaction was straightforward and unremarkable inasmuch as he seemed completely unfazed by my somewhat exotic appearance. Turning left past the street cellar on the corner by the museum had me making my way up the steep hill towards the library building. The streets had started to fill with students and commuters heading to work. I smiled at people as I caught their eye. They seemed to smile back if they'd noticed me. Towards the top of the hill I was glad to see the university building ahead of me, across the road junction. My feet were really aching, and I was glad to finally make it to the front entrance of the library building. Picking up later in the chapter, it's time to head back to the car park. Page 36. I'd enjoyed a few hours there, making notes and getting references for the thesis. Eventually it was time to go, and now I find that heading down the hill back into the town centre was presenting a whole new challenge. Walking down a steep hill in 4-inch stiletto heels had not been covered in any of the YouTube training videos, and I hadn't factored this one in, and neither had I checked out the protocol for walking on cobbles. It felt precarious, and I was concerned about falling. I was concerned about failing. I would lose credibility if I ended up in a heap on the floor. I doubled my concentration, blocked my mind to the pain in my toes as they pushed even harder into the point of the boots, and focused back on the routine. 1 foot in front of the other, heel in front of toe, walk from the hips, keep the back straight, keep the head up. Cobble was soon again replaced by paving slab, and the trick here was to avoid the cracks in the pavement, not because the bears would jump out and eat me. Nope, I needed to be fearful of the horrible pavement trolls lest they grab the tip of one of my heels and snap it off to make delicious troll stew. I was careful, let me tell you. Towards the bottom of the hill, a bin lorry was at work. A couple of lads in yellow visi jackets worked their way up the street in front of me, grabbing bins and hauling them towards the rear of the truck. I started to panic. Was this safe? How would they react? Was there another route to take to avoid them? The thoughts pounded through my brain. Once again I fought the battle between the part of me that thought it was stupid to put myself through this, and the part of me that wanted to be out, to overcome the prejudice, mine and society's. I contemplated turning back, finding an escape route. I considered crossing the street, but that felt like the coward's thing to do, and it might even bring more attention. So I decided to brave it out and keep going straight past them. As I reached the rear of the lorry, I looked in the eye of one of the bin men, and with a slight nod and a semi-smile towards him, carried on. Unlike the labourers, there was no comment. It had not been a problem. A sense of relief passed through me, but by now I was tired and weary. I had really pushed myself, taken the courage to be out, and I was pleased to have done it, but my feet were killing me. My head was hurting, and I just wanted to be back in the car park and sitting in the sanctuary of my car, heading home. The large construction site lay ahead, but I was beyond caring. I'd be on the opposite side of the road anyway, and would adopt the nonchalant attitude that I had used past the bin men to avoid any aggro. As it turned out, the route back proved uneventful. Finding myself once more in the car park and standing by the side of the car, I was soon kicking off my heels and slipping into something more comfortable. I felt a sense of achievement, and although it had been scary, it had been okay. The situations I'd encountered had been perfectly manageable. It was all about positive mental attitude. It was time to head home, but enjoying the new freedom of being out, I kept the skirt on and drove most of the way home before finding a quiet lay-by to get changed back into trousers and remove the makeup. It was, however, several months before an opportunity to go out presented itself. The book's available from all the major booksellers, and obviously on Amazon it's also available in Kindle format. On this website you'll find a PDF file that you can download, which is one of the other chapters, and a bit of the preface and introduction. I hope you enjoy it.